Welcome to Get Better at Business. Have you ever heard somebody talk about know thyself? Well, I think that it's very helpful to know thyself. It is also very helpful to know thy team, and someone who has been very helpful to me in getting to know myself a little bit better is the very charming, very strong, very kind, and very smart Melissa Baxter, who's back on the program. Melissa, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, especially with an intro like that, Travis.
Well, it's know thyself, know thy team, and know Melissa Baxter. Those are three good bits of advice that anyone would take. And those who know you, I think, would agree about my chosen adjectives to describe you. So anyway, thank you so much for coming back. I really do appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. I was excited to be asked back.
Yes. So since we have last spoken, I know that there is a very significant change in your life.
Yes.
And so you are expecting. And
I am. We are. I will say we are. It's not just me on my own.
So here's a hot take that you're free to offer up. How do you feel about couples saying we are pregnant whenever I know that your husband is clearly not? What is your opinion about the phrase we are pregnant?
It doesn't bother me as much. It really bothers Brian, actually. He does not like to say we are pregnant. He says Melissa is pregnant. We are expecting a baby. And he's very adamant about it. I don't really care. It's all the same idea. What does bother me is when my family does a we. Or says my. That bothers me. I'm like, no. This is not your we. This is my we, or my own. So that part's been interesting.
So when is the happy day? How far away are we from this little bundle of joy?
We're 25 weeks.
Okay.
We're 25 weeks yesterday, so that's about 6 months-ish. So she's due September 15th. Are
you how excited are you that you get to be the most pregnant during the hottest time of the year in Dallas, Texas?
I'm very grateful that my parents live 2 miles away and have a pool that I can invade every summer I am very grateful that my parents have a pool that I can invade every weekend, and it's only 2 miles away. So I'm not that excited, but I am excited that I have relief very easily accessible.
Yeah, could be worse.
Could be worse.
It could be worse.
But I just keep thinking I'm just going to be a big old beach ball every summer, or every weekend, hanging out in the pool. And I'm okay with that. That sounds great.
Yes, that does not sound bad. There are certainly worse fates that someone could be assigned to. So as a reminder to folks who perhaps did not hear our previous conversations together, just give us a rundown of what you are currently up to in your business life, both Flourish and your day job, I guess you could say. Just give us an update on what you're up to at the moment.
Sure. So it is a joke within my family that I do not only have one job ever. People never know what I do because I do so many things. So my 9-to-5 job is I am a corporate trainer at a company called Benefit Mall with our other friend, Jenny. And it's been really great. I've really, really enjoyed it. I've gotten to stretch a lot. We're actually doing 3 different trainings at the same time right now. So it's a little bit chaotic, but it's been really, really fun to get to know so many people at the company and really stretch into this role that I didn't know that I always wanted, but I always wanted. So that's my day job. And then I have my semi on the side job, which is I also run a wedding chapel at my church, Bentry Bible Fellowship, that I've gone to since I was 11. So we have weddings that go on there every year, and I'm in charge of recruiting the people that come in and organizing it, and then having a team that executes, and I don't have to be there. So that's even better. And then finally, I have my Enneagram life strategy company called Flourish Life Strategies. And so Flourish Life Strategies is really my baby. It's really what I get to own and do, and it's come out of my own creation. And it's really fun because it's so important to me, and always has been, to know, why do I think the way I do? Why do I feel the way I do? Why do I seem to be different than other people? And I wanted, as I got older and understood more about that, and understood my degrees in psychology, and so I spent 4 years paying a lot of money to learn more about that as well. But I wanted to help other people get to the same realization I did without having to go to a trained therapist or learning alternative programs or sessions as well. Things like assessments is the word I'm going for.
Yeah. So what do you feel, where do you feel that your expertise with the Enneagram is most helpful? Do you feel that it's most helpful in dealing with the wedding stuff or in dealing with the corporate training job?
That is a great question. I think it's really helpful in everything. And this is kind of a cop-out answer, but not only is it helpful in weddings and in corporate, but it's also helpful in my everyday life and relating to other people. What I love about the Enneagram and what I love about different assessments and getting to dive deeper into them is that when I understand that other people, one, are different than me, I take much less offense when they have other things to say or they feel they have a different opinion than I do. And it helps me come into situations with more of an open mind and have an idea of where they may be coming from. So if I say something and it offends someone, I have the idea of, oh, they just think differently than I do, or there is some reason that this is the reaction that they're having me. How can I take a step back and dig a little bit deeper? So it helps me in weddings because it helps me when brides, grooms, mothers of brides, when people get panicked, I don't internalize that. That's not about me. That's not about what's going on with Melissa doing her job. That has to do with them and the way they handle stressful situations. It's really helpful in my corporate job, though, because as a trainer, I have to bring 75 people into one session and then get them to talk. They don't want to talk. They want to sit there, get the information, and get out. But again, I'm able, if I can have a little bit of dialogue with them, I'm able to make them feel relaxed or make them feel more comfortable. And then when they do contribute, I can identify what they're saying a little bit better and help bring them in the way that they're comfortable versus how I feel like they should be comfortable.
Yeah. So would you say that having these tools that you can go back to and having frameworks that are available to understand the way people behave, do you find that it depersonalizes things? I think that it's a great bit of advice. This is in the 4 Agreements, which is a great book if you've never read it. One of the pillars of the book is don't take things personally, and that nothing that anyone is ever doing is about you. And so do you feel that having these frameworks really helps you to depersonalize things, where you are able to not take things to heart or feel like it is a commentary on you as a human, but simply on the way that they are acting and the way that they like to behave?
Yes, it does. It gives me, I love the word that you said, the word framework, because what I love about Enneagram and then other assessments too, it gives you an idea or a framework of how other people tend to act. Now, I know you and I spoke in our last session. Not everyone fits in a box, and that's okay, and that's fine, and we want that. So when we talk about Enneagram, DISC, Predictive Index, any of these assessment tools that we're using, no one fits into every box perfectly, and that's because we're all different people who come from different backgrounds and have had different experiences, and that's great. So it's kind of humbling a little bit too, because yes, I may have an idea based on things that you've said, but that doesn't mean I know everything about you either. On the other side of the coin, while it does help to depersonalize it, it also helps me to know, how am I coming off in a way that's not helpful to other people? How am I stepping in and hindering myself in the communication I'm trying to have with you because you have a different framework than I do? So while that's still not personal, it's still helping educate me on what I'm saying or how I'm interacting with someone else.
So I wholeheartedly agree that it's the idea, I think a reason that people, and we talked about this on the last episode, but I think the reason that some people are very resistant to this is that number one is that going through some of this discovery, it can be very probing and it can be very invasive. It can feel if you're not clear on the intent and what you're trying to accomplish by doing this investigation, it can feel very critical. What are you going to do with this information? And I think that there are some people out there that do not have the proper context for using these tools. And they say, oh, okay, well, this is where your dots line up on this spectrum, and therefore you need to be a janitor Or, hey, this is the type that you are, and so therefore you should be a teacher or a CEO or a corporate trainer or whatever. And I think that I have seen people misuse this, and it really just it erodes trust rather than build trust. So based on your experience, what tips would you have for someone that is interested in, well, let's back up. The first thing is that stress test me on this. I think that whenever you get these results, the best way that you can handle it is kind of a two-step process. Number one, validating it, presenting this information to the other party and saying, and not opening up with a statement of, oh, this is the way you are, but asking the question, to what extent do you think that this is true? Does this resonate with you? And everybody has the right to say, actually, no, it doesn't. And so I think that's the first thing. And then the second part is, if this is true, and we have this nailed down, that this certain aspect of your personality or behavior is this way, in what ways do you think that this might be helpful to you in your role? And then in what ways do you think that this might present you some challenges? And so I think that's something that I have kind of tried to adopt. And so you're the expert. You tell me, what is your opinion about how people should use this and avoid putting people into a box?
Absolutely. And I love the way that you approached it in a two-step process. And the common thread, I think, in both of those, in step 1 and in step 2, is be curious and be open. So Ted Lasso is one of my favorite TV shows of all time because it's just so happy. I love it.
Are you about to talk about the dart scene?
Yes, of course I am.
Oh my gosh. The dart scene in Ted Lasso. Oh yes.
It gave me such language though. It helped me really understand what am I trying to say, and it paints the perfect picture. So for people who have not seen Ted Lasso, Apple TV, get on it tonight. You'll binge it in 2 days. It's amazing. Like, I just can't say enough good things about it. But there's this scene where Ted, who is a American football coach, moves to London to be a soccer football coach, and he is challenging another gentleman in a game of darts. And time out.
If you haven't watched it, we got some potential spoilers coming up, and so just let's not ruin it for the people.
Okay, no.
So anyway, no. You can do it. Okay, but this is your warning. If you're listening and you haven't listened to Ted Lasso, just skip forward a little bit in the program, and you won't be spoiled. So
exactly.
Please proceed, because I love this is an all-time great TV scene.
So during the dart scene, the other gentleman used to own the club, and now his ex-wife now owns it. And he's kind of dissing Ted about the job that he's doing as coach. And Ted is kind of taking everything just off the cuff, and he's not getting offended by it. And he's explaining to this other guy, Rupert, I think is his name. Mm-hmm. He said he used to drive by this wall when he was dropping his kid off at school every day, and it was, be curious. And he said that when he was growing up, people would be very judgmental to him, and they would assume things about him, and they would make decisions based on him. But if they had asked questions and gotten to know him, then it would have made that relationship better, and they wouldn't have put themselves in positions to be embarrassed because Ted could do those things or was better at those things. And so at the end of the dart scene, Rupert is actually winning the dart game. And Ted goes, "Oh, I'm actually right-handed. And if you had asked me, am I good at darts? I would have told you that I've played darts every Sunday from the ages of 10 to 16 with my dad." And he's sinks 3 bullseyes, and it's amazing. And you're just like, yes, take it.
Yes.
Because nobody likes Rupert.
Nobody likes Rupert. He's a real ass. And so it's a...
wasn't sure how crass we could go, but yes, he's real terrible.
It's on the nose. And so, we don't just, get better at business. We don't drop language for no reason. But sometimes, look, it's okay to call an ass an ass. And so, yeah, it was a great moment, but I do think that lesson of be curious.
Be curious about you as well, not only other people. Mm-hmm. And that does tie in as well, of course, again, helping to kind of depersonalize and understand this framework. You have to be curious about other people. You have to be willing to ask the question instead of, oh, well, that kind of hurt my feelings. instead of saying that to yourself, having a dialogue of, well, where are they coming from? Or why would they say that? So yes, be curious about other people. That's very important.
I think that this is, I'm sorry, I think that this is a breakthrough here. And I think that it's like, just follow the Ted Lasso rule if you're using these things, because my experience of people that I have seen that are misusing these things and putting people into a box and making a lot of real. Let me just tell you a story. I was on a call. I was on a call with somebody that was using one of these tools, and they had done some profiles of people on my team. And this person, who was an expert at this particular thing, was looking at their results and providing me with a lot of really definitive statements about the way that these people are. And I had to stop this person and say, I want to remind you that you were talking about a member of my team, and you were talking about a person that you have never met before. And I wouldn't have said it like this until you until you brought Ted Lasso into the conversation. But there was no curiosity. There was no curiosity. This person was not curious about, I wonder if this is true. I wonder what this would make this person's role like. I wonder how this person's work life would feel if this was the case. There was no curiosity. It was just very prescriptive. It was very direct, it was just very closed-minded. There was no curiosity. There was no curiosity. And so interestingly, after I challenged this cat that kind of checked him a little bit, his response about why he was doing it this way was based on my profile. And my profile was relatively, I think, was not off base in this particular thing, but I'm like 2.5 sigmas to the right on one of these dots, right, where and this person implied that I would like my communication to be very direct, very straightforward, because people, quote unquote, of my profile, that's the way they like to communicate. But he wasn't curious about, hey, Travis, how would you like to be communicated with? He just made that assumption. And so be curious. I think that is a great guiding principle for using this stuff. Thank you, Ted Lasso.
Yes, thank you. So many lessons in Ted Lasso. But you bring up a great point. And that is one of the reasons people hate assessments, because they do feel like they're being put into a box, that they either are being misunderstood, or they only see the negative critical pieces, or they feel like they can't get out, or there's things that are better about them. And so I understand 100% why people do not get as excited and nerdy about assessments as I do. But when you approach them, and I'm actually going to piggyback off of you and tell another story as well. I recently got certified in DISC, which is another assessment. It's much more work-based, and it categorizes you into 4 categories. And that's very small. If you think about the workforce and people in general, 4 different categories is not a lot. That's not a lot of variation in people. So the less frameworks you have, keep in mind, that means the more variation there is within that framework, because there's only 4 places you can put someone. And so my characteristic in DISC is an I. So I'm what's called an influencer, which I think is hilarious. Because we're going
to talk about influencer here in a minute. But please continue.
But it tends to be like the bubbly, energetic person. They want to be happy all the time. And yes, I totally get that a lot. And the other personality type on the of the trainer actually was a D, which is a dominant personality type. And as an influencer, those personality types actually make me a little uncomfortable, because it says words like self-confident and assured and selfish, and to me, these words sound aggressive. Mm-hmm. And so we were having a discussion about how people understand the words that they hear, both good and bad. And so I asked her if as a D, do any of these words bother you? And so she looked over her list of what I felt were aggressive words. And she said, no, I understand all of these. And I said, you're fine with someone calling you self-centered and assertive. And she says, yes, because I look out for what's going to do for me first. And then if I can help other people, I will. But I need to make sure that my ducks are in a row first. And so it's an interesting. So I had made an assumption about her that, oh, okay, D's are very dominant and they don't have feelings. They want to get things done. But when I asked her that question and she explained it to me, it made so much more sense. And I didn't feel, because I always thought they were really critical of that category. I was like, these words are not nice words. Mm-hmm. But then she looked at me and she goes, I'll look at eyes and I think that, you guys are, really charismatic. That can sound really skeezy to me. Like, that means that you're fake. And I was like, oh, I love being charismatic because that makes people like me. So to your point, being curious about, yes, you can make assumptions. We're humans. We live life in stories. That's the only way we can relate to one another. But having the conversation, or at least the inclination to say, does this story fit with you? Or can you help me understand a little bit more of your side of it? Really opens up that dialogue and then creates trust. So that when you have these vulnerable conversations about why you may be the way you are, why you have that question, there's a foundation instead of just being like, well, let's dive in. New person I've never met. This is fine.
Yeah. So I think that's a great segue because I think we need to this. It's right there in the name. We're here to get better at business. And if you want to get better at business, you have to get better at teamwork. I am my latest life philosophy that I am trying on for size is that it's just that getting better at business is just getting better at teamwork. That's all that there. If you focus on that, the rest of it will take care of itself. So in your experience of working in a corporate training environment where you are working with a lot of different people, a lot of different circumstances, talking about different stuff, what is let's break it down for the people. How would you use the concepts, not necessarily the tools, because not everybody is necessarily in an environment that's going to be cool with like, oh hey, let's all go get typed as Enneagram or let's do DISC or whatever. That's not everybody's deal, but the philosophies that are behind that you have found really useful. What would you suggest to people? Let's say new environment, new team, new project. You're working in a different kind of thing. What are some techniques that you would recommend to people to really get a better understanding of who they're working with so to facilitate better teamwork?
Absolutely. And having just joined this team, actually, I've only been at my job for my new job, 7 or 8 months. So not very long. And it's kind of interesting because half of our team is very new. I think we've gotten maybe 8 new people in the last year, but that means that there's 8 people that have been there longer than that year. And they've all had experiences and worked together. So coming in as a new person is a little intimidating, especially when you have longevity and tenure with other people in the company. So something that helps me when I have to get to work with other people, which I thoroughly enjoy, is kind of what you alluded to or what you discussed in your conversation with the assessment you guys did. Is number 1, how do you like to be communicated with? What is going to be the best way for me to either send you information or work together on this project? Do you want to run the deck? Would you like me to run the deck? Are you more comfortable speaking or would you like me to speak? Can I email you or do you prefer Ping or Teams or whatever weird thing you guys have? Just starting with basic conversation of what do you prefer? How do you work best? To me, eliminates a lot of headache and unnecessary worries because you don't have to guess, are they going to email me back? Or do I need to send them a ping? Or does this sound okay? You've already asked the question. There's no guessing anymore. Guessing is what stresses everyone out.
All right, so I'm going to challenge you on this one because I would say that this is a little bit of, this sounds a little Melissa specific because I do know that, because remind me of your Enneagram type.
I'm a 2, which is
you are a 2, which is a helper. And so the way that you were framing this up is that is very is on brand for a 2. How would you like how would you like to be communicated with? How would you like me to do this or whatever? And so I think that is something that works for you. And I think that it's also something that if you were paired up with this person that was a D in the DISC or somebody that's like I don't know, an 8, challenger type person, whatever.
Yeah, those are great. Very, very, very good.
So it's if you were paired up with somebody like that, I don't necessarily think that they would respond, that they might just be like, dude, just do whatever you want and I'll just deal with it. And so I think that you found something that works well for you. Broaden it out a little bit. Let's just say so it's, what are some other ways that somebody could kind of communicate, kick things off with meeting a new team that, let me ask you this way. What are the underlying philosophies of your tactic of getting that information of like, and in your method, of course, is asking those questions, what's going to work best for you, but what is the underlying philosophy there that somebody might be able to apply if they're maybe more dominant or
sure. And yeah, and that's a great point too. And you're right. I tend to ask questions before I do things, and other people tend to jump first, which can be better a lot of times because then you're not wasting time asking questions. You get things done. You're much more decisive. I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to get at is coming to the table knowing that not everyone sees things the same way you do, regardless of if you want to make decisions quickly or not, or if you want to take the time to ask those questions, or if you want to make those decisions. Either which way, I think everyone has to come to the table and understand not everyone else at that table will have the same response that you do, will have the same process that you do, and will have the same answers that you do. That's great. We want that. The more diversity, the more different options that you have, and maybe the better solutions we're going to get. I think coming with that understanding is like the biggest part, honestly.
Yeah, I think that little dosage of, I say it's a little dosage. It's a big step. It's having that level of awareness, that understanding that not everybody does things the way that you do, and not everybody is going to have the same desire for detail. Not everyone is going to have the same preferences on how things are communicated or how often things are communicated. And so I think going into it with the understanding that is something that is an unknown that you need to figure out. I think that is probably the secret sauce right there. That's probably it, is that, hey, let's just go into it understanding that. And if you don't care, then it's like, well, I don't think that we can cure that on this show here. We're not, it's like, I'm not, if you just don't care whether people are, in a good work environment or not, it's like, I don't think that's a different podcast, man. That's not this one.
Exactly. No, that's a great point. Yes.
All right. Okay. Let's do a little rapid fire here. I promised you that we were going to talk about influencer. So.
Yes, I'm curious.
You have a TikTok page?
I do.
Or is it a page? Is it an account?
That's a great question. I'm really upset. I do not know the cool lingo anymore. I just learned what tea was the other day, and I've never felt so old. Do you know what that is? Do you know what
tea?
spilling the tea means?
Spilling it. It's like gossiping, right?
Okay, I didn't know that until like last week. I felt really old, and I've asked like 7 people, and I'm the only one who doesn't know that. So I don't know the correct lingo, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so you have some TikTok presence that has a name that you probably don't know.
Word.
All right. So what is your favorite and least favorite thing about being on TikTok?
I really like that TikTok is so easily accessible for people. I have gotten so much more traction, interaction, likes, comments, engagement on TikTok than any other platform that I've tried or probably would try. And that truly shocks me. I think it's because it's got shorter. It's about a minute long. I keep everything a minute. So that's a huge help. It's real quick. But also the algorithm of TikTok is really great at finding similar content. And I know all of them have this algorithm, but there's something about TikTok where it tends to keep with the same themes. And so it's not just people who are interested in Enneagram. If you're interested in personality or assessments or growth or whatever, you can find me, and then you can go to my page and then find everything, account, whatever word we decide on, and then find all the other videos as well. So that's been my favorite thing, is with not a lot of, I don't have to make a Google words, AdWords. I don't have to do all this marketing nonsense. I make a video and it gets seen like thousands of times with very little effort. And that's been really great.
Least favorite thing about TikTok?
The least favorite is you have to be, if you want to gain followers and you want to really have a following, you do have to do it very, very frequently. And that's not just TikTok, that's all social media presence. But again, because TikTok is moving so quickly, that does need to, like, you do need to make more content. And I mean, in full transparency, with pregnancy, you get real tired. And so that has not been my top priority. So that is something I really do want to get back into and need to focus more on to grow my business. But so keeping up with it is the hardest part. But at the same time, it still lives there, and people find videos from 6 months ago and they like and comment on them. And I'm like, I haven't done anything in a minute. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. And I'll respond. So that's kind of cool, too.
All right. If I was going to pay you $1 million to do only one of your jobs, you can just do the wedding thing, just do the training thing, or just do Flourish Life. Which one of these things are you doing?
Oh, I don't like being in one box. If you would pay me $1 million, I would really love to just do the Flourish Life Strategies part, because I really do like helping people see what their strengths and weaknesses are and helping them develop their own language and find words for what they feel. I feel like a lot of people don't know. They just know they have reactions. They know they have tendencies. They know they have triggers. They don't know why they have those triggers. And they feel so separated from other people, and they feel like no one else feels this way, and I'm alone. And while, yes, the experiences of Travis Richards are going to be different than every other person in the world, there are still similarities between you and someone else who has a similar profile type assessment, whatever. And that builds a bridge so that you don't feel isolated and you don't feel like, oh, I'm the only person who feels this way. And so I would love, if I could make $1 million doing what I do, doing that, I would love to just talk to people about their personalities all day long.
So is your expertise as a wedding planner live bands or DJs?
Well, you're going to disagree with me because I was at your wedding. I prefer DJs for the simple fact of it's easier to go through different genres with DJs than it is with a live band. And depending on the type of wedding you're having and depending on the crowd and audience, this is very wedding specific as well. If it's a 24-year-old, a DJ, because they want a bunch of different things. They need to satisfy parents and older people, and they need to satisfy their 18-year-old friends. Like, that needs a bigger genre. People that are getting married later in life, I mean, a band is way more fun because they're live and there's energy and it's about what they want. And they have less people they have to please. So it depends on who you are.
What is the best piece of advice that you received but did not follow?
I thought about this question, and I actually follow most advice that I'm given. I am a big homework checkbox. I want the gold star. So I do. So if someone tells me something, I usually try it. But I will tell you the best advice I've ever gotten that I do follow and that I do think has been very helpful for me is to just say yes. Just try stuff. Push yourself outside. It may not be in your job description, but just say yes, you'll help, or yes, you're interested, or I want to work on this project. And you learn so much more. And you get to develop skills you didn't know you had.
What is the time in your life when you said yes, but it was a little scary, and you're so glad that you did?
If I'm honest, it's about pregnancy. For a very long time, we had said we were never going to have kids, and that was just a personal choice that we made. And then I really don't know what changed, but it was really cool. Independently, both my husband and I came to the understanding that we wanted kids on our own. And so neither of us was pushing the other one. But when we got there and we had the conversation and we actually ended up getting pregnant very quickly, we've grown so much together, and we're so much better people than I ever thought we could be. And so I'm really excited to bring like this little girl into our lives and see what she's going to do too. That's such a corny answer, but it's true.
Well, that's it. Corny or not, it is certainly, the truth sounds like the truth, Melissa. And I know that was a very sincere answer, and I would expect nothing less. So last question.
Last question?
Somebody.
We're almost done?
Time flies when you're having fun, my friend.
I know.
So last question. Somebody that would like your assistance when it comes to knowing thyself, knowing thy team, where can they find you?
So you can find me on TikTok, as we've mentioned. My account name, I guess is what it's called, is Flourish Life Strategies. So if you just search that in the little search box, then you can find me. And then I'm also on Instagram as well. And then there is a site if you are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I don't even know to look at our videos. I'm just ready to go. If you go to youcanbookme.com and search for Flourish Life Strategies, you can book me there as well. And we can get started on a session.
Well, it is well worth it. Having gone through it myself, it is a great exercise in self-discovery, and you're not going to end up in a box, but you will end up asking yourself some really strong questions. And I think that if you go into it with the right mindset, which Melissa can certainly assist you with getting into that right mindset, I think if you go into it with the right spirit, then you'll come out a little wiser and a little bit better positioned to be happy and effective. So, Melissa,
I'm glad that was your experience.
It absolutely was my experience, and it was my experience on this conversation with you. It is always such a treat to talk to you. I am so excited for you and for your husband. I'm so glad that y'all are, getting closer and closer to the finish line of bringing this little girl into the world. So thrilled for y'all on that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. This is Get Better at Business. You can find us, learn more about Melissa and our other guests that we have had on the show at www.getbetteratbusiness.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. We have information about that in the show notes, and we'll also have Melissa's information in the show notes. Once again, Melissa, thank you so much for spending some time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.